broadcasts in Israel, broadcasting her own death in the Iranian protests to the Israeli public. Take a look.
Baba?
That's her.
אני לא... היי, מה נשמע?
Crazy.
מה קורה? אני בבית שלי, אוקיי? אני צריכה ללכת לאימון עוד חצי שעה, חבר'ה, מה קורה?
So there she is on TV. There she is sitting watching the TV as the TV says, the Israeli propagandists say that she died in the Iran riots, even though she's probably never been to Iran and she lives in Israel. And she's still very much alive. I think the top story for most Western media outlets, especially in America over the past week, 2 weeks, have been these protests in Minneapolis, these big protests in response to ICE, and the unaliving of 2 American citizens who were at the protests, okay? One of them was a protester. The first one, the woman, was a legal observer, a single mother of, I think, like 3 kids or something. Now, look, I don't want to get it twisted about my views on immigration. I do not support mass immigration in any way, shape, or form. 0% of me supports mass immigration. I do not support that. I think that violent illegals, I think they should be deported, okay? We need real immigration. We need to fix the courts. We need real immigration. We need real border security. But what we don't need are these Israeli-trained ICE thugs in the streets massacring citizens, doing public executions. We don't need Kash Patel out there. You cannot bring a gun with a loaded magazine to the protest. You cannot protest ICE with a magazine. Listen to what this guy's saying right now. He's literally telling Americans, no, you cannot arm yourself. You cannot embrace the Second Amendment. Is this not just the most insane thing you've ever seen? Actually, it's not for me. I'll show you the most insane thing I've seen in a moment.
Thousands of people are marching through Minneapolis. They are targeting the Border Patrol. I mean, it feels like the rhetoric and the protesting is only ramping up. What is your advice to the people right now who are outraged that this is a second killing at the hands of Border Patrol in 2 weeks?
As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that
do
simple.
not bring the guns.
Right to break the law.
Do not redeem. Do not bring the firearms. You know what's crazy about this? The U.S. and Israel were funneling 60,000 guns to the so-called peaceful protesters in Iran just 2 weeks ago. 60,000 guns were seized by the Iranian authorities. And oh yeah, by the way, they still did get a bunch of guns and they were killing people in the streets. The official numbers were released. 3,700, 3,100, somewhere in that number. They were killed in the protests. And the vast majority were killed by the rioters. They were funneling all these guns to the so-called peaceful protesters. They killed the Iranian protesters, rioters. They killed a 3-year-old girl. They shot her in the street. They were shooting shop owners. They were shooting besieged workers. They were shooting security officials, police officers. They were shooting at mosques. They were shooting at hospitals. They were doing all that. And what did Trump say? If you lay your hands... If one of the mullahs lays their hands on a single peaceful protester, we're going to launch bombs at your country immediately. Of course, what I just said was far more graceful than anything Trump said, but that is effectively what all of the Zionist stooges were saying, okay? That is what they were all saying. But Kash Patel says, you cannot bring a gun to the protest. Cannot do. Now listen to what this U.S. sheriff or police officer said about the protests and what you can and cannot do at the protest. Take a listen to this.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, You're going to the hospital and jail.
All this war just to cover up the Epstein files.
Wow.
And most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead.
Oh, bro, that was so hard, bro. You know, that statement's really got to hit hard if you're like a 40-year-old morbidly obese person living in your mother's basement, and you've got like Eric Cartman acne face, and you're sitting on Reddit and Discord all day and watching Nick Fuentes, you know, goy slop videos. That really does hit hard. You know, that was super hard, bro. Anyways, honestly, like, yes, this whole thing is a distraction. What it does reflect, though, is the rank hypocrisy of what the U.S. was just threatening to do, threatening to start a war against Iran over any sort of wrongdoing or crackdown on the Iranian rioters that were backed by Mossad, as stated by Israeli Channel 14 and Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, because the Iranian rioters, they attacked 750 banks, 750 banks. Interesting, right? They only attack the banks that are not controlled by the Rothschilds. 750 banks in Iran were attacked. I believe dozens or hundreds of mosques and hospitals and storefronts were attacked. Besieged centers, police headquarters were attacked. I mean, if that was happening in Minneapolis right now, what would the U.S. response be? Would they just sit back and say, like, oh, no big deal? Because that's what the U.S. wanted the Iranian government to do, or else they were going to get bombed. And that still is going to happen, by the way. And that was some of the justification for it. But it's insane. It's insane. It's such delusional hypocrisy that anyone, like these cat turds on Twitter, like they just eat up the goy slop. They say like, oh, yes, sir. That was so base, Mr. Sheriff. And also, yeah, Iran needs to go hands off on the protesters. How does that make any sense? How is there any logical consistency in those statements? Now, here's what I was saying about the Israelification of ICE and the U.S. government and U.S. security apparatus, right? Because we know for a fact that U.S. police officers all across the country are literally trained by the IDF. In many cases, they go to Israel and are trained. They have like actual, like NYPD has a headquarters, training headquarters in Israel that they go to. Same thing with ICE, okay? ICE is trained by the Israeli Defense Forces and other Israeli security entities. Multiple reports show. So here we have, Georgia International Law Enforcement and the American Jewish Committee exchanges, which have included ICE participants learning from Israeli military strategies. We have ADL, National Counterterrorism Seminar, and ATS, which have involved over 1,200 top U.S. officials, including ICE, traveling to Israel, hosting Israel experts since 2003. Training with the IDF since the early 2000s. Thousands of ICE officers, along with U.S. law enforcement personnel, have engaged in training exchanges with Israeli military and police forces, including the IDF. The list goes on and on and on of all the different programs, DHS, ICE, all the different programs that go on training the ICE officials to be like the IDF, okay? And if all of that wasn't enough for you to show that this is just a giant scam, okay, take a look at this, because in the same week that they're telling you that, you know, you shouldn't care about what ICE is doing, the public executions of these American citizens, but you definitely need to care about the Iranian citizens that were unalived in the riots that took place 2 weeks ago or a week ago or so. Here's what actually went on with the Iranian riots. Here is an Israeli woman shocked as she's watching a live television broadcast in Israel, Israeli TV, broadcasting her own death in the Iranian protests to the Israeli public. Take a look.
Baba?
That's her.
אני לא... היי, מה נשמע?
Crazy.
איזה מה קורה? אני בבית שלי, אוקיי? אני צריכה ללכת לאימון עוד חצי שעה, חבר'ה, מה קורה?
So there she is on TV. There she is sitting watching the TV, as the TV says. The Israeli propagandists say that she died in the Iran riots, even though she's probably never been to Iran and she lives in Israel. And she's still very much alive. Whole thing is a psyop. What else is new? Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.